asked me how I became a writer, and I think you hate to sort of give away your thesis, your talk right off the bat, but I give all the credit in the world to the public school teachers in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. When I was in the 5th grade, my teacher was a guy named Doug Smith, and Doug Smith had played semi-professional ball with the likes of Warren Spahn, Henry Aaron. He had lived in a time where, he had trapped animals as a boy, all sorts of crazy sort of adventures. And our reading list, also this is kind of the point in the talk where I can tell you, this is going to be a little interactive. I've interspersed some author names and titles, so if you want to further reading list, scratch stuff down. Our reading list in the 5th grade for Mr. Smith included The Cave by Theodore Taylor, The Old Man at Sea by Hemingway, My Side of the Mountain by Jean Grey George, and Ivanhoe by Sir Walter Scott. And years and years later, talking to my colleagues from the same 5th grade class, we said, do you realize that our reading list was probably like sophomore college kind of reading level? But the thing that I think I really have to thank Mr. Smith for is he didn't underestimate us. He didn't treat us like children. He knew that these are universal, amazing stories, and that he trusted that we would get it. And so he read them to us for the most part, but that's really, I think, where part of my love for reading began. The other thing is, Mr. Smith gave us a writing assignment in the second half of our 5th grade year, which was to write a historical fiction about the westward migration into America. He felt like this was the quintessential moment in American history, and the best way for us to understand it was to research it and then write a fiction about it. And we really had about half of every day to work on this fiction, and mine ended up being 125 pages long as a 5th grader. And a lot of it was just learning this lesson that writing was putting your butt in a chair and staring at the wall and working on imaginary characters, imaginary actions. So he's number one. Number two seminal moment in my childhood was that we had a high school newspaper. And I wrote for the high school newspaper, mostly movie reviews, I think, but also some sort of bad editorials, because what does a 16-year-old kid really have to say about the world? But the notion of having your friends and colleagues stop you in the hallway and say, we read what you wrote and we liked it, created this sort of positive feedback that you yearn for as a writer, making connections to people, and that was something that I kind of became addicted to. And I've learned since then that my high school has stopped printing a high school newspaper, and I'm just like, well, that may have been the beginning of my writing career. There are still people in our town who have those clippings of my review of the Titanic or whatever that came out in 97, 98. And to get back to the idea of these public school teachers that I had, I wrote this very bad editorial, which was totally tongue-in-cheek, and it was sort of a satire of feminism and my own sort of insecurities and stuff like that. It was tongue-in-cheek, it was funny, but I can see how it was offensive. But my favorite teacher and the editor of our newspaper published it because he thought it had something to say and that it was, clearly tongue-in-cheek. But it cost this gentleman the only letter of complaint in his entire wonderful teaching career. And it meant enough to him to stand up for my writing that he was willing to take that professional chance. Something that I didn't understand as an 18-year-old kid, but that I found out in my 20s meeting him in a bar one night and having a beer, and said, you know what, the only time I ever got in trouble as a professional was you.